Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing my weekly review for this week's episode of the Walking Dead television series. This is now for Season 8, Episode 14, Still Gotta Mean Something. And spoiler warning, if you guys have not seen this episode yet for The Walking Dead, you'll probably want to watch it before you watch this review. So we have only 2 episodes left for this season, episodes 15 and 16, and that is the end of The Walking Dead Season 8, but also the end of All Out War, which is, you know, a huge kind of climax or a huge finale that looks like we're just starting to see kind of get geared up here. We're going to see probably the final battle in most likely the last episode. So I'll have my video predictions posted about an hour after this video for you guys. Definitely check it out for episode 15 because we got to get into how we think the whole thing is going to play out with the finale. But that said, this episode, man, this was an incredible episode. And I forgot, or maybe I didn't know that this one was extended. One of the two, whichever it is, I either didn't know or I forgot it was an extended episode. But I appreciated it because they packed, again, a lot of stuff into this episode. And the thing that sticks out to me most about this episode, you have a pretty big character death, which was unexpected for me, which was a spoiler warning for Jared, which was awesome. Morgan's like holding there. You know, you see his red, right? You see the red on the wall, and he gets devoured, like Noah style, by a whole bunch of, maybe not quite as bad, but almost as bad, by a whole bunch of zombies, while Morgan is kind of just like sadistically, you know, like watching it. It felt like justice, right? That was a good one. So aside from the amazing character death that was in this episode and all the other saviors that had escaped as well too, and we'll get into kind of the what happened with that, but I mean, the character stuff in this episode was just on another level. I'll have to look up afterwards to see who wrote this episode and who directed it, but the character moments in this one were just like, you know, like that's what makes The Walking Dead The Walking Dead, right? It's not, if there's one thing I'd have to say about The Walking Dead television series that really kills it, that really nails it, it's the characters, right? It's the characters. It's the way the series makes you feel about the characters. And this episode, even though it had the action and had all these different things happening in it, so there was a lot to it. It's not just this, but the character moments in this episode stuck out to me as some of the best we've had in a while, and maybe some of the best of the entire series. Like literally Morgan, I'll have to update after the season's done. I'm going to have to do a top 10 video updating my top 10 favorite characters, because I can tell you right now, spoiler warning, right, for that video, number 1 is going to be Rick, because, you know, it kind of has to be. But number 2 has got to be Morgan. It has to be. I mean, Morgan has just become kind of out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but he's become like one of the absolute best characters in this series. I mean, just the dialogue between him and Rick in this episode, the back and forth, and we'll get into each line as we do the review. We go scene by scene. But the question of, you know, Rick asking him why he saved him and why he did that in the very beginning. I mean, so many things that tied into before. Another one that stands out like crazy is Henry says sorry to him. And this one got me, man, right in the feels, right? This one got me good. Right there, when he says, Morgan says back to Henry, don't ever be sorry. And if you guys have seen my, throwback reviews, I've done a few of them actually for Clear, because it's one of my favorite episodes of all time. And I did one just recently, I think it was during the break this year. That's what he says to Carl, right, in Clear. That's the same thing, that don't ever be sorry, son. So, yeah, man, that's the same, that's the same thing that, so the same thing he says to Henry here is basically the same thing that he said to Carl in Clear. And, oh, man, and there was a lot of lines like that in this episode. Maybe I'll even do like a things you missed type of video for this one. But I'm just kind of in awe. I got to watch it again because there was so many important lines in this episode. It's going to be difficult to even recap. But that one in particular, and then also the conversation between Rick and Morgan as well too, and the two of them being side by side, And, like Rick's saying, like, you and me, we finish it, right? Like the two of them together, right? It's kind of like, we've seen some of that with Daryl and Rick before too. But this was just awesome. I loved it. It was amazing. So let's go scene by scene and go through the episodes. We start the episode off, we have Jadis playing dead, which was a cool scene. They kind of show us what happened with her right after the massacre at the junkyard, or how she was able to survive that, which is something that some people, had been wondering how she, was able to make it. Everybody else there was killed, and she's wearing this just underdress type of the nightgown type of thing. When Rick and Michonne stumble upon her, with her whole group being dead. So in this one, we actually get to see it kind of play out, which was really cool in the introduction. It was a nice introduction scene at the junkyard where Gary actually spits on her, which is just brutal. And she plays dead with her eyes open, which I guess at that moment, being as shocked as everything was, for her, just as in awe as she was, it would make sense to play dead like that, frozen, to the point where she's barely even blinking, like maybe here and there she blinks, but when he comes by and stuff, she's just like, it made sense. It made sense because what she had gone through, what she had just seen with Simon, it was just like, wow, everybody just in total denial of her reality, just shocked and just not able to absorb what's happening around her as she's just kind of scrambling to survive herself and play dead there. And then we have Negan who comes in, right? What the shit? No, really, just tell me, what the shit? So I love that one. And let's just go over the stuff that happened with Negan in this one here. So we kind of knew, like she gets close to Lucille and him, right? She gets close to hitting him with Lucille. But that plot armor was like a force field. It was like, no, you can't kill Negan. Like, you might think you can, and it really felt like to me as like a plot armor force field, because you have this bat coming down, Lucille's coming down, and it's like, emanating from Negan that, no, plot armor, character protection. You can't swing through this force field of plot armor here that Negan has, because he has to survive. It's Negan. You're not going to kill him off just like that. If you're going to do it, it's got to be epic, and that's not epic enough to do it. But I did like all the stuff with her and Negan in this one, and this was really cool to see. Another line here that's very important. If you've read Here's Negan, which I've done explain videos on, I've done reviews for, with Negan's backstory before the zombie apocalypse. In this episode, he basically tells the audience, he tells Jadis as well too, that Lucille was his wife's name. So now we have confirmation 100% that it's going to be the same in the TV series as it was in the comics, and that he lost her, and so these snapshots that Jadis has now are very important to her, especially because what happened afterwards and them all being ground up into zombie goo and everything, her whole group being dead. That's really all Jadis has to remember them by, are the pictures that she has of them. So Negan's somehow able to kind of wheel himself over there, even though he's bound, and is able to get a flare, get the gun, and threaten to burn the pictures, which would be like her destroying Lucille. So they somehow work it out here. She realizes that it wasn't his doing, it wasn't what he wanted to do, but that Negan can somehow make it right here. So we'll have to see what they agreed upon, if Negan is going to deliver Simon to her, if Negan's going to kill Simon, Lucille Simon, just what's going to happen with this, how Simon's going to respond. We'll save that discussion for the predictions video right after this one for episode 15. But we kind of knew that Negan would have to get out of it, and that's kind of how they went with it. And I thought it was pretty good. It felt pretty natural, even though you tend to think to yourself, maybe she should have just killed him right there. Why didn't you just shoot him earlier and it'd be all over and done with? But we did also get to see the helicopter, which was pretty cool, because we saw that kind of coming by before, and she's got the flare. So I'm guessing with this one, she's maybe kind of like a stranded, like I'm here type of thing, and maybe she doesn't actually know who's flying the helicopter, or maybe she does. And it's something where they've landed there before, and maybe another community's being introduced this way. Could it be like Commonwealth, something like this? I don't know. Again, topic for a Q&A type of video this week, probably, what's going on with the helicopter. But it was cool to kind of bring that in, because it's been something that we've kind of been wondering. Now, we don't have all the answers right now about the helicopter, but at least we got to see it kind of come into the story again. We got to see it come in, and we got the idea that with the timing, that Jadis is trying to SOS somebody who who is flying the helicopter, that she is there and she's alive and well, even though everybody else there has at this point been killed. And since we had the extended parts, we have Meighan open the door to somebody after he leaves, which we're not sure who it was, but basically saying they look shitty. I'm thinking maybe Sherry. Does that make sense that it could be Sherry that he's seeing? Not sure. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities here on who he would open the door and just allow in. I got the sense it was probably Sherry. We know Dwight is in there, and we were expecting to see Sherry back at some point. So we didn't get the reveal yet. It's kind of, open door, come on in type of deal. So we don't know 100%, and I haven't freeze framed it to zoom in, to see who it is who's in the passenger seat. But that's who I would kind of expect for it to be. And we see him actually return to the sanctuary at the end of this episode here. So we'll go after the introduction here. We got the scenes at the Hilltop. We start with Ezekiel and Carol, who are kind of discussing about whether or not to go after Henry, and Carol decides that she should once Morgan kind of gets involved, and she decides to go with him. And I like the stuff with Henry. You get to see, and you're wondering if he's dead or not, because you have his miniature, his smaller staff, through one of the zombies, and then she ends up finding him kind of hiding, which again is kind of something that kind of echoes back to her like saving Sophia now. And again, that's part of what I think this episode was so brilliant. We should probably do a whole one just going through everything in this. It was so well done and so intelligent. But if you guys remember, so you've got Sophia there, season 2 premiere, where Rick kind of loses her, right? He tells her kind of to hide, and they're kind of near water there, and then he kind of will draw them away and then circle back. And, in that case, of course, Sophia was bitten and then put into the barn. But in this case, Carol actually gets to save Henry in a similar type of fashion to Sophia's situation that she was in, except Carol is able to be there this time because she's become so strong now, to take out the walkers that are going after him and actually make that save. And her seeing that as kind of her mission, that she is to save people, and that's kind of her job. So I loved all that stuff. That was great, and even the stuff between her and Morgan was pretty good. We had some stuff between Daryl and Tara, but it's like, whatever, what to do about Dwight, not a big deal. Rick and Michonne, and we have Michonne crying, and we have the question of the letters that Carl had left them, and Rick's he just wants to kind of run away and just stay in action, so he doesn't think about, just to distract himself from just kind of sitting there and thinking about what happened with Carl and reading the letter and all that. And he kind of comes to terms with it at the end of the episode. And another great moment here as well too, when he tells Michonne that he's sorry and that he loves her, and then she says, "I love you too," which is really great, because I don't really recall in this series us hearing that. If you guys think back, I can't really think of any time when they just simply told each other that they loved each other, and I couldn't think of a better time to do that, and then it would be more applicable than in this scene in this episode at the end here. Good one. You can't save the dead, Carol, right? Because you have Morgan, who's seeing he sees dead people, right? So you have that, and I also like that as well too, because there's the parts where he sees Henry in that, and then he's questioning later what he's seeing, as he goes up and he kind of like pokes, he deliberately, kind of like poke grabs Henry to make sure he's actually there. And even when he sees Rick, it also parallels earlier on, because Rick can tell that Morgan has gone back into his clear mode. So Rick is like, "Hey, it's me. You know me," type of deal. We're on the same side here, and don't try to hit me with a staff or something, or go nuts at me again. And again, I really love so many things in this episode that were just so brilliantly done, and that was another one of them. So let's see here. We have all of that stuff. We have the stuff with the Saviors. So I was a bit surprised that the Saviors were able to kind of best Rick and Morgan, even for a minute, even if it was just for like a sec, and they were able to kind of tie them up and everything. And then you have Jared, who somehow, I don't know how, has been able to take over leadership of this group that has escaped, of the Savior group that has escaped. And they so we have the zombie sort of herd that's nearby, or group that's nearby, which we had seen earlier on, which was near, and apparently the Saviors didn't even know that, but was heading in that vicinity or direction. And Morgan was being so loud, and Jared and the others were being so loud, that they ended up kind of coming down on them. So Rick and the others are able to Rick and Morgan are able to kind of be set free so they can fight. They promised to the Saviors that they would allow them to kind of come back, and then Rick admits later that he actually lied. So Jared was kind of right in a pretty dark scene, which was kind of a nice twist here, that Rick is just at this point not the good guy anymore, but he's willing to do that. Whereas before in this season, earlier on, so after Carl, and everything kind of Rick has been through and the amount of pain he's been through, he is now willing to do stuff like that, whereas earlier on, he was not. Like, it seemed like he was kind of angry with Daryl about the one guy that Daryl had killed, one of the savers that Daryl had killed, when Rick had kind of promised him that, it would be okay, you can take a car, you can leave, and then Daryl just shot him afterwards. We see Rick pretty much do the same thing here, as they're kind of taking down all of the savers, even though one of the savers had actually saved Rick at that point, and, they'd let them go, right? And then, Morgan and Rick kind of turn on him and kill them all down, which was it was a pretty brutal scene. It made sense because that's what they came there to do, but I was still thinking, with Alden kind of pleading with Rick before, that he maybe brings some back if he can, and not kill them all. You got to kill Jared, yeah, that's true, but maybe like the guy in the darker blue shirt might be one that they could bring back because he seems trustworthy and that he's helped Rick, he saved him and everything like that. So I liked it. It's just like, you kind of want Rick and Morgan to kind of be the good guy still, or at least Rick to be the good guy when he gives someone a promise. So again, kind of playing up this angle of when to kill, whether or not it makes sense, and it's been a concentration all throughout the season so far. A lot of killing in season 8, but for Rick, he kind of goes to Morgan here, and they just kind of wipe him out. So it's what it is, and they had to say what they had to say at the time to make it done. And so Rick is no longer a man of his word in his current state, which is kind of makes me sad in some way, but totally understandable after what happened with Carl. We have the stuff with Morgan. So everybody turns, right? Why'd you save me? Why'd you do it? Why'd you save me? Why? Because my son was there. So Morgan says because he had a son at that time, maybe he was trying to teach his son the right way or to do the right thing. And he had, he was healthier, he was happier, he had people around him, he had his son there. And so he decided to do the right thing with Rick and save him. Which now he's kind of like, what's the point? So kind of maybe a comment on living and whether or not it's going to be worth living if you're just going through pain all the time, you don't have anybody around that you care about, and for both of them, kind of both their sons being a motivating factor for them to be an upstanding citizen and to do well and to help others and not stab people in the back and kill them. But they're both kind of not broken at this time, but they're in a state right now and during the war that they're not willing to give people a chance or take any chances at all. Certainly Morgan isn't, and Rick, even at this point too, isn't either. So the Negan leaving part, like we commented on there, Carol saving Henry, Hilltop, we've got Ezekiel, and they kind of return. Henry goes and hugs Ezekiel. You have the others there, and you are no coward, right? So the people... so Carol mentions about finding herself in that and kind of finding her motivation and maybe kind of reinforcing this idea that she saves people, and that's what she is to do. Morgan journey continues. I don't die, right? And we get an awesome commercial for Fear again, which we've seen before. It's not new, but it was just so applicable in this one after seeing everything that happened with Morgan in this episode and Henry and everything else. Really good stuff. I don't die. So there's that. And then we kind of see the scene with Eugene, which we've already seen in the sneak peek with Eugene, Rosita, and Daryl. They're kind of scoping out the place and getting ready to maybe launch an attack against that. And, then we finish off with the Rick sequence with Michonne and the cards from Carl. Wow, so a lot of stuff to recap in this episode. To wrap it up here, love the episode. Thought it was an incredible episode. This is the kind of stuff that makes The Walking Dead my favorite series of all time. Substance, not just, some kind of filler episode as 14 to try to space out to the finale. A lot of stuff happening, but just some really amazing character stuff. The prisoners that escaped being wiped out, and Morgan starting to get ready to really looking like he needs a Fear the Walking Dead vacation, right? So in terms of score, I'm going to go on a limb on this one, and I'm going to give it a perfect 10. I mean, I thought this episode was amazing. I thought it just stuck out to me as like one of those all-time classic Walking Dead episodes that you got to watch if you like Rick, if you like Morgan, if you like Carol. Very important character moments for them, and really surprising to me in a series where they've done so many episodes where it kind of feels like, are they going to be able to do anything new, and are they going to be able to keep it original and mix it up? And in this one, I mean, they played on a lot of the things that happened earlier on in the series in a different way, where they kind of, used it as a commentary with regards to where the characters are at right now and how it has affected them and how it affects them now. And it just amazing episode. So especially for Morgan, Rick, and like I said as well, Carol too. So perfect 10 out of 10 for me. I love the episode. It's one of the strongest episodes I think we've seen in a long time, if for nothing else than just the character moments. Amazing. So let me know what you guys thought about this one. Leave your comments below. Did you love the episode as much as I did? Did you notice all these different things, or did you notice any others that you want to comment on in the comments below for anything that they did in this episode that reminded you of something in the past or paralleled something that happened before, kind of a callback lines or moments in it. And all around, just let me know what you guys thought of this one. This one for me puts season 8 near the top as one of my favorite seasons they've ever done, The Walking Dead. If you guys like this video, please don't forget to thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite. And if you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it. If you like this review, you like my reviews, you want to see future reviews, then you got to click the subscribe button at the bottom to see future ones in your subscriptions and notifications. Click the bell to turn those on. That's it for this one, guys. I think I've talked enough for this one. Long episode, substance type episode, a lot of content in this one, and definitely didn't want to just skip over. There's so much stuff. So, I still probably, left out some things that you guys might have wanted to hear. So if there are any, leave a comment. We'll do it in a Q&A this week, and I'll be back in about an hour for the predictions for episode 15. Awesome stuff. That's it for this one. We'll see you guys again soon in a bit. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.